Matt Aguilar here from comicbook.com. And today I have the esteemed pleasure of speaking to WWE superstar and the American Nightmare himself, Cody Rhodes. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm looking over your shoulder at some of your figures.
Oh, all my knickknacks.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of good stuff there. Is that Becky holding up the title?
Yeah, it's right there. Yeah, that's the one that my daughter keeps taking off the shelf. I'm going to lose it at some point.
That's what happens. That's what happens when you put them in arm's reach like that. You know, collection to an active toy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know your schedule was crazy busy these days. Starting with, I can't. It's one of these things when anniversaries come up. I can't believe I've been playing WWE Supercard for 9 years. I read that out loud. I was like, wow, I don't know what that, I put a lot of time into that game, and it's really fun. And it's always kind of evolved with new modes and slick new card designs and things like that. With the 9th anniversary year this year, what can you tease to fans about what's coming up, what you're most excited about?
Gosh, yeah, ninth anniversary, the 9th anniversary, and then I found out I think I've got 33 variations within the game, which is unbelievable. This is just like a catalog of these things I've done, some that I've even forgot. I know there's a big update coming on. We just had the update in May. I'd like to see, and this isn't necessarily a tease, but I'd like to see, as the defining moment, pec injury. Cody just made his way onto the toy shelves. I wouldn't mind seeing that variation in Supercard, but I feel like Supercard is almost ahead of fan service in a sense that some of our other mediums that we kind of campaign and push for stuff, Supercard seems to like sneak things in. The stuff they've used in terms of the imagery for the American Nightmare and the brand itself has just been dead on with this return and who WWE really did get back. So I like to be surprised. I think it's going to be a really strong 2023, 2024 for Supercard.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. And also, thank you. My gratitude to you, because there was one card of yours, and I cannot remember the tier, but it like owned for like 2 months, and it made life very easy for me in multiplayer. So thank you very much.
That's what I wanted to do, That's what I'm here to do.
And you're right. One of the things that's cool is that they sneak not even Easter eggs, but just like nods, to things in different ways. And one of the ways is they've got equipment, and it's always cool to have like the stock stuff, but I know special equipment is kind of something that they're going to continually add. And I don't know, how do we get a weight belt in there?
I mean, that right there might be a thing that they absolutely need to do immediately, because those things it was a huge part of me coming back to WWE. In the initial meeting, I mentioned that I wanted 2 things on shelves: the actual weight belt I wear and a little kid version of the weight belt I wear. And then I was explaining, I really want to get in the habit of giving it away every match, if you find a youngster in the crowd. And now I find myself, literally when I'm done chatting with you, I'll step outside this door. There'll be a table with 50 to 100 of those on it to sign for tonight's Monday Night Raw here in Fort Worth. That's where I am today. And just, yeah, it's time. It's time to get a weight belt for sure. That's a good call.
Yeah, different versions. Endless opportunities. And you brought up the fan interaction, and one of the cool things about, there's a lot of there can be a lot of negative about social media, but one of the cool things about social media is when, especially with WWE, seeing all the reactions from fans, all the moments after and before matches, that's a really cool thing, and it can just make a family or a kid's day. And how is that? How do you feel about how the reception has been since coming back to WWE and those kind of reactions you have?
Well, I think it was so surprising in Dallas showing up. I remember thinking they might boo me. I'd been away. I'd done all the things that I did. I'd set up and helped create the alternative and the competition and stood by all the work I had done previously. But I thought maybe this audience will take time. And they received it so warmly, and they were so excited. And we had some really record metrics in terms of adding me to shows and then merchandise stuff that it was so nice to hear But the thought for me, just being kind of an eternal pessimist, was, well, it'll fade, naturally, that it'll fade. And we were in a situation where it didn't, and it's grown. And now we're kind of put in another position, leaving WrestleMania not the champion. Whereas that's the biggest challenge as far as from just me personally. I want to make sure that it's as hot as it's ever been. And that's probably the biggest challenge I've ever faced in my career. And again, it's just getting larger. And I think maybe it's related to the nature of the family component of WWE. Usually you see a lot of family of fours, dads and sons, mothers and daughters. There's this generational divide, but also this thing that links them. And I think it's gone from maybe the dad or the mom to being on board with this, to the kid is now fully decked out in the whole uniform. And it's just really, you don't take it for, I can't take it for granted. And I just look to every month as a new, oh my gosh, we really are growing, which is, again, the eternal pessimist. It's scary. You wonder, like, when does it end? And I think if I can continue to compete at the level that I compete and to do the things I do, which they fit right in with WWE, but they also are very in their own world, in their own universe sometimes. And I think it's here it's very appealing, and hopefully I can just continue to give the best work and best effort. But we sure as heck train for it and do everything we can, very much on what we would call like a main eventer schedule, in terms of your commitments to yourself and commitments to all the fandom. And it's paid off. So I'm very blessed. I really am.
Well, and you mentioned a couple things, WrestleMania. I feel like we'll get to that in a second, because it was such an epic event. But you also mentioned the time commitment, all the things, like you mentioned the weight belt. You have a bunch of weight belts to sign. There's so much that goes into being in your business. There's so much things that go into just every day. And one of them obviously is motion capture, because you actually got to be in WWE 2K23 this year. Everyone was number one, super bummed that like just the timing of it didn't work out for 22.
Right.
And then I'm pretty sure you were one of the most created people in that game. And then to see the official unveiling and everything, what do you think about this year's, their version of you? I mean, we got the Stardust taunt, we got the famous punches. I mean, it's a pretty accurate, I think anyway, comparison for them.
I'm very, very hands-on. I'd even go as far as saying I won't put the heat on 2K for me not being in the game initially and then waiting till the modern iteration of it to happen. The reason being, I'm very particular about the American Nightmare, the whole concept of it. It's something I built while I was away, and until people are gonna fully immerse themselves in it, they're familiar with it, they respect it, and they only want to kind of further give it the signal boost that somebody like 2K can do. It just takes time, and that I was one of the reasons why it took so much time. So if anybody had any problems, it was more me than it was 2K, in a sense that I want to make sure it's done correctly. I'm also super petty about, I want to know, what's my number? I'm super petty about all this stuff, just because I'm always, again, I mentioned eternal pessimist, but I'm also always on my guard. I came back here and some of these people were working here when I was Stardust. And, I know from the canon of it all, you look at it and Stardust was kind of a big old loser. So you're already ready to fight. Like, I hope they know this is a different me now. And most of this crew is more than aware of that, in terms of they've seen everything that's happened in our entire industry. And I'm very hands-on with it all, which is why it might have taken longer. I also know they know, and there's some 2K reps who are on this call off to the side right now. It's a big personal goal of mine to earn my way onto the cover. And I don't know when that will happen. Hopefully within my contract time here at WWE. Cena getting the nod this year is no doubt, he's more than earned it. I think we now have even a larger appreciation for who John was and what John did for as long as he did. But that's definitely one of my goals is the cover, and the true cover, not an exclusive, not a collector's edition, the true cover, but that's a journey in itself. I mean, it's a huge milestone. I've had such respect for the game. I think it's 14 years or since the first one that I was in. I think somebody just told me that. It's really a beautiful thing. This being the highest rated one ever. Obviously, it's for sale now. It's a good time.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned earn it. And it has been, that term has been the center of some thrilling promos, and also some back and forth, obviously. Paul Heyman, who loves to talk about things, has mentioned that with the loss at WrestleMania and some of the backlash, for lack of a better word, because a lot of people really wanted you to win, so it's saying that you haven't faced enough adversity, or it's it was never going to happen. You know what I mean? Those kinds of things. How do you feel about those? How do you react to those kinds of things? I know Paul is Paul. Sure. But how do you take those?
I think I almost think Mr. Heyman really likes to, I don't know if the term poking the bear, or if he just likes living on the wild side, because he's one of the smartest, most important and influential figures in the history of the sport. But also he's fully aware that I'm an incredibly reactionary person, but I react differently. So, 5-7 years ago, if you sent me a tweet about how I couldn't do something, I might react immediately and then go out and try and do it. And that happened quite a bit. Today, it's a little bit more cerebral in how I react to certain things, and reacting to losing at WrestleMania. Here we are, the most profitable WrestleMania of all time, the most important show that's ever involved this collective thing that fans love, and to be able to be in the main event. So many people looked at it and tried to sell me that was a win in itself. And it's not how I feel. A win is, not to be redundant, is a win. And a loss is a loss. I haven't gone on TV talking about the nature of how I lost, because I think it's whining. And I also think everybody saw it. We already saw it. We lived it. We breathed it. But yeah, I think Mr. Heyman just lives a bit on the wild side, in a sense, when you hear things like earn it, hasn't had enough adversity. I can't wait till my documentary comes out. That's very ironic in terms of juxtaposing the documentary and the amount of adversity in it, some that many people don't even know about, particularly getting back to WWE, and then Mr. Heyman's comments. But the goal is the same, is the best way to put it. The goal is the same for me as a sports entertainer and as a wrestler. I came here wanting one thing. It doesn't mean other stories won't happen that will also be finished, and it doesn't mean there aren't other milestones. And we're talking about the good things like video game covers and things like that today. But the most important thing to me is still the championship that sits on Roman's shoulders, and it's the biggest match that WWE could do. But it would take a great deal of mountains to be moved for that rematch to even happen. So the goal is the same for me, and I just have to kind of see it through and do the work.
Well, and obviously with the goal being the same, you mentioned that doesn't mean other stories and things like that. Yeah. Obviously Triple H recently introduced the WWE Heavyweight Championship, and I know you have a soft spot for Big Gold, and that was, it very much seems anyway, a homage to that title. And also you were drafted to Raw, which, by the way, congratulations. It's always cool to
number one, guys.
Those, two things, how do those at all alter your full on plan, or do you kind of look at them as just next steps to ultimately get there? Do you want to go for that title, or is it just taking away from what you feel is the ultimate goal?
Will Triple H being the coach here and calling the shots and making it clear that this World Heavyweight Championship, which just from a fan of belts, the physical belts historically, and all the nods and things that were done, the lions and pieces of old titles kind of strewn onto this hunking piece of metal that Triple H unveiled. As a fan of classic titles, it's definitely something that piqued my interest. That's the title that represents Raw. That's the title that main events Raw. That's the title that is the franchise title for the USA Network. So I can't say I don't want it. I can't say that that's not something that would be, if you look and revise your goals and say, okay, this is the route we have to go, especially particularly with me being drafted to Monday Night Raw. And that might be more of a case of, like I just said, a story, a different story. The goal is still the same for me, but by no means am I, or should anyone be looking down on the new world championship, because it's one of those things I think in time, people will hopefully come to love and revere. It's being positioned as the lead title for the brand itself, and it'll take a lead individual to do it and handle it. And Raw has a stacked roster, so I definitely want to throw myself in the mix. I've tried not to get into the discussion because people still very much, like I am, over how WrestleMania 39 ended. A lot of people wonder, how would I look at this? And I try not to get into the discussion on it, because it's more one of those things where in my mind, the goal hasn't changed, but also other things are going to come up. You're going to confront new, gosh, I can't believe I'm going to say this word, adversity. And for me right now, that's Brock Lesnar more than anything. So I can't even think about that beautiful belt that Triple H showed until I'm able to do something that very few people could ever do. Get into the ring with a beast, not just survive, but win.
No, absolutely. Well, I greatly appreciate the time. Cannot wait for night 2 of the draft. Looking forward to seeing what pans out, and all the best success.
Thank you so much. I like the draft's the best because you can hear talent in the hall talking about how their schedule is going to change, and it's fun to hear. Just literally, there's people talking about it now. Like, I usually have Fridays off, going over and stuff like that. I'm just kind of chuckling at what I'm hearing out here. I'm not going to stooge off who it is, but yeah, the draft's a very, very fun night. It's a very real night for all of us. So looking forward to the second night of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Seriously, amazing time, and thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.